Hey guys, Victor here, coming to you with another deck profile, and for today's video, I decided since earlier in the week we did Lightsworn and Tearlament, we might as well combine them both to do Lightsworn Tearlament. Much like the previous versions of this build, the deck is still very much capable of just milling its entire deck out on turn 1, which pretty much leads to you having like some super crazy board that your opponent has a lot of difficulty outing, which, you know, pretty cool. But yeah, the deck is a lot of fun to play. I still don't know if it's the best variant, but it's definitely a lot better than it used to be thanks to a lot of new cards that we did receive recently. So with that out of the way, let's just jump straight into it. Now, as always, we're going to be starting off with the monster lineup first, and we're of course going to be playing 3 Fiendsmith Engraver. This card, I cannot stress this enough. It is insane what this card allows us to do, whether it's setting up an auto Appaloosa or rank 6 plays in the form of Beatrice or Pilgrim Reaper. This card, it really just does everything for the deck. And if you want to play like decks such as Tearlament or Lightsworn competitive-ishly, I definitely feel like you need to have 3 Engravers because it really is that good. Then, to accompany our 3 Engravers, we're going to be playing 3 Weiss Lightsworn Archfiend. So this card is already pretty good on its own, right? You're able to take a Lightsworn monster from your hand, stack it on top of your deck, special summon the Weiss, and then mill 2. And when it's milled from your deck, obviously, to the graveyard, you're able to special summon any Lightsworn monster from your graveyard except itself. So just like off of those effects, this card is already phenomenal, right? And I've always said that it's probably the second best card to come out of the new wave of Lightsworn support. However, with the inclusion of the Fiendsmith, I honestly feel Weiss is probably the best Lightsworn monster currently, just because, I don't know if you've noticed, but Weiss happens to be a light, and it happens to be a fiend, and just so that means on its own, it's literally full Fiendsmith combo. And that's something that I neglected to mention in the Lightsworn deck profile I did earlier this week, but I remember this time, and I just gotta say, having something in archetype that's a light fiend that allows us to go full combo is honestly just insane. So yeah, definitely gotta play 3 Weiss, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Next, we're gonna be playing 3 Lightsworn Dragonling still. This card also just got a lot better because, like I said, if you open with like the Weiss and you have a Dragonling in your hand, you can just normal summon the Weiss, make Requiem, and then boom, you automatically meet the requirements for Dragonling to summon itself from hand, and you can just go really stupid hard. As you special summon it, you send a Wulf or a Felis, you sync up for A, and then things really just do get out of hand off of these little cute combination cards that you could have. But yeah, Lightsworn Dragonling, another phenomenal card. For the final 3 of Lightsworn Monster, though, we're going to be playing 3 Wulf Lightsworn Beast. It's the brick of the deck, but you got to play 3 of it. You know, you open it with the Weiss, you have full combo for whatever you have to do. Like, literally, that gives you access to your entire deck. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Unless you get stopped, of course. But if you don't, you can literally just win the game right then and there. If you draw it, it sucks, whatever. But we move past that. And then for the final Lightsworn Monster, we're still just playing the 1 Felis Lightsworn Archer. You don't need more than 1 because we already brick enough on the Wolves. But it being a tuner is pretty important at helping us set up the Synchro Minerva and like other cards such as like Visas and Amritara. But I definitely don't feel like you need more than 1. And since this is a 40 card deck, space is already stupid tight. And yeah, we just work with what we have. And that's it for the Lightsworn portion. And then for the Tearlament portion, pretty small, pretty standard. We're playing the 3 Tearlaments Kashtira. On normal or special, it mills 3 from either the top of your deck or your opponent's deck. And as if that wasn't enough, when it's sent to the graveyard by card effect, you're able to mill 2 more cards. Then to accompany that, we're going to be playing only 2 Tearlaments Reinoheart. I know I've always said that if you're playing Tearlaments, you should be playing 3, but that's just for like the more pure versions. Opening the Reinoheart really is not that important in this deck, and it's very, very easy to have access to it just because we're milling so many cards. And yeah, like, unlike the pure Tearlament, it's more of an enhancement as opposed to like the main priority to have access to. So yeah, 2 Reinoheart is perfectly fine for this deck, and then we play the 1-ofs being the 1 Scheiren, the 1 Havnis, and the 1 Merrli. We're allowed 1 of each, so we play 1 of each. And that's it for the Tearlaments, but we are playing a couple more monsters. I decided to include a small Bystial engine. So we're playing the 1 Magnamhut and the 1 druiswurm. These are probably the 2 biggest flex spots if you want to like work around. Maybe you want to play more Felices, I don't know. But I really like what the Bystials honestly offer for this deck because 1, it's a dark monster, so that means you're gonna have like an easier time fusion summoning with your Tearlament cards. Bystials in general are just really good in the format because if you're playing against an opposing player that uses Snake or Fiendsmiths, you're able to just banish key cards like Lurrie. They're also level 6s too, right? So if for some reason you get stopped at some point, as long as you have an Engraver on the field, you can just special summon 1 of these 2 and still continue to combo off. So yeah, these cards really solid. We play the 1 Fabled Lurrie because it's Lurrie. Pretty much are going to be your main target off a tract. However, I do want to point out you do have more options because Tract adds 1 Light Fiend. So if you don't want to add Lurrie, you could add Weiss from your deck to your hand as well. And, you know, like I said, Weiss is pretty good. And for the final one, just the one Mudora, the Sacred Oracle. I pretty much just chose this one over Keldo because it's slightly bigger. And with that, that's the monster lineup. And now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion. Now that we're finally on the spell and trap portion of the list, we're of course going to be playing 3 Charge of the Light Brigade. This has always been something that I've considered like the best, worst card of the deck because sure, it gives you access to any Lightsworn monster and can pretty much give you full combo for whatever you may need. However, it does have anti-synergy with the Tearlaments, as if you mill any for cost, you will not be able to activate them. And unfortunately for us, Charge of the Light Brigade mills for cost. So just be aware because things like that do happen pretty frequently where you mill like a sulliek or a scream or a tier name and you just can't do anything with them. But yeah, to accompany our 3 Charge of the Light Brigades though, we're going to be playing 3 Primeval Planet Perlereino. On activation, it searches any tier, it pops cards when a tier element is shuffled back into the deck, and it boosts all your fusions and your tier monsters by 500. This card, you know, main consistency piece that allows us to interrupt our opponent during our turn and their turn. So definitely got to play 3 of that. And those are it for the 3 of spells in the deck, but we do play a couple of 2 ofs, being the 2 Tearlaments Scream. Much like Tearlaments Reinoheart, the Scream honestly isn't that big of a deal. If you draw it, great. If you don't, it's honestly whatever. Because let's face it, like the way that the Lightsworn cards play, you're going to be milling your entire deck anyways, so you don't really have to rely on something like Scream, but it's still nice to have, you know, because it offers you somewhat of like a decent protection during your opponent's turn, or just being able to mill it to get sulliek to your hand is invaluable as well. But yeah, it's not as big of a focus on this specific version of the deck. And then for the other final 2 we're playing 2 Triple Tactics Talent. This is something that I'd normally play at 3, but I just could not justify playing the 3rd one, and honestly, it's fine, you know, whether you're going first or second, this is probably one of the more impactful cards, because if you get hand trapped at any point, or if your opponent is going first and they have a monster in the field, you have access to 3 very broken effects, whether you want to take an opponent's monster, rip a card from their hand, or draw 2. All of them are very valid options. Then that's it for the 2 ofs, and then for the 1 ofs, we're playing the 1 Foolish Burial, the 1 Tearlaments Grief, and the 1 Fiendsmith Tract. That's it for the spells, and then for the traps, we're just playing the 2 sulliek. That's it. No Trivia Karma, we don't need it because we play Visas Amritara to search literally any tier spell or trap. This is pretty much like the perfect ideal amount, I feel. The only trap that I would maybe consider playing is Lightsworn Ages, just because, you know, you can combine that card with like things such as Toadally Awesome or Appaloosa to ensure you don't auto-lose to Dark Ruler no more, but I think it's fine as is right now. And with that, that's the main deck. 40 cards like always, and now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now, when it came to building the extra deck for this deck, I had a really difficult time just because, let's face it, 15 slots is not enough, but I feel like with the 15 that I selected, it's decent enough, but there's always room for improvement, so yeah, let me know how wrong I am down in the comments. But anyways, we're going to be starting off with the Synchro Monsters first. We're going to be playing the 1 Minerva, the Athenian Lightsworn. This is pretty much going to give you full access to your full combo, as when you use 2 Lightsworns to make it, you get to Foolish 2 Lightsworn monsters, and that in turn gives you another access to another level 8 Synchro, or a rank 4, or a link 2, or whatever the situation calls for, right? And as if that wasn't good enough, you can just banish 4 Lightsworn monsters from your graveyard to mill 4 more cards. And because we don't play Punishment Dragon, we really don't care what we banish. Any 4 will do. We don't have to be like one of each name or anything that like particular, right? Any 4 Lightsworn monsters will allow us to mill 4. So yeah, Minerva, solid card. And then the other level 8 monster that you play that you typically make after this is going to be Visas Amritara. So this card on summon searches any spell or trap that mentions Visas Starfrost, which just so happens to be every single Tearlament spell and trap. That's literally all it's for, you know. You make Minerva, you send like a Weiss and a Wulf, or a Felis and a Weiss, or whatever. Your Weiss will bring back something, and then the other one that you sent will come back as well. Then you make this, and then you search out your Primeval Planet Perlereino, typically. But if you already have it, you go for like a Scream or a sulliek, whatever. That's literally all it's there for. It just searches key parts of our deck, and then after the effect resolves, we can then make Zombie Vampire, which is a rank 8 that takes 2 level 8s at least. And you know, you just attach 1 material, you mill 4 cards from each person's deck, and then you get to special summon a monster. So you can summon a monster from your graveyard that you milled, or from your opponent's graveyard that you milled. But yeah, you know, just that little combo on its own, right? So you mill 4 off of the Minerva, or I guess technically you mill like 6 because you get the 2 off the summon as well. Then you have the Visa search, and then you get to mill 4 more, and just like that, you've already milled through a 4th of your deck. So that when I say that things get out of hand very quickly, I really do mean it. Then for the other Exceed monsters, we're still playing the 1 Bahamut Shark and the 1 Totally Awesome. This is probably the most cuttable aspect of the deck. I'm not going to lie to you, just because we don't really play very many dark monsters, right? We play the Bystials, and then we play the Zombie Vampire and some other cards in the extra deck. So they don't come up as often as I would like, but they are still pretty important at helping us ensure that our opponents don't break our boards. Spoiler alert though, it's either this or I decide to play something more along the lines of like Desiree or IP Masquerena, things of that nature, just to help us prevent our opponent from playing or just get rid of key resources that way. But I feel like Totally Awesome and Bahamut Shark is probably the most consistent way to get those problems out of the way. So that's why I'm still including it. But if you want to cut them, by all means cut them. It's not like it's the end of the world, right? Then for the final Exceed monster, I still decided to go with Pilgrim Reaper over Beatrice in this specific variant, just because, as I stated in the Lightsworn video the other day, Pilgrim Reaper benefits a lot more from when you want to mill as many cards as possible, and so do the Lightsworns, just because you can, for all I know, you could just mill like double Wulf Felis, and then you just have full combo right off of that. So, and it's just, since we don't play cards like Trivia Karma, we don't really need something like Beatrice to specifically send a card, right? We'd rather gamble 5 on blind luck, because more often than not, we're going to be hitting more cards than if we just relied on the one Beatrice. So yeah, one Pilgrim Reaper, perfectly fine. And that's it for the Exceed monsters. And then for the fusions, we just play a couple. We played the one Mudragon of the Swamp to help us go into Toad. We played the one dragostapelia to help us recycle our Mudragon and just continuously loop the two to ensure that we never run out of polymerization targets for our tier monsters. You played the one Kaleido-heart just because it's probably the easiest one to make, and well, not that, it's literally the only one we can make because we can't play Rokola since we're not playing any King of the Swamp type of cards, and Kick Colossus banned. But even so, it's still a phenomenal card. On special summon, it spins a card back, or if you mill an Aqua monster, it spins a card back. If it's destroyed by card effect, it comes back and mills a card. It's just a really, really strong card. And then for the final fusion monster, we're playing the one Fiendsmith Lacrima to start off, I guess, the extra deck portion of the Fiendsmith engine, being the one Lacrima. It brings back level 6 from either your ban or not. It brings back your engravers, basically. But it can also target, for example, your Weisses and your Lurries if you really want them and want to do something else. So, it just targets one light fiend monster in your grave or banner zone and adds it back to your hand, or special summons it. The choice is yours. But ideally, you're going to be getting back Engraver and then going into like Pilgrim Reaper, or you're getting back like an Engraver and then going into Appaloosa or whatever. So, yeah, card's solid. That's it for the fusions though. And then, like I said, the Link monsters, we have the one Requiem to summon out Engraver from the deck, the Sequence to shuffle back our resources and summon Lacrima, and then we're also playing one Moon of the Closed Heaven. So through my testing, I honestly don't really make this card all that often, just because Weiss is pretty much always on the field, or we're just milling so many cards that Engraver has fodder to shuffle back and summon itself. But it's fine because you're not always going to have it, right? Sometimes you just end on like those awkward hands where all you can really do is summon like a tier cash, and then you have like a normal summon of a shuffler or something. So it's nice to be prepared for those type of situations, but by all accounts and purposes, this is probably the card that I summon the absolute least in the entire deck, if you can actually believe it. Then for the other links, the good generic ones being the one SP Little Knight and the one Appaloosa Bow the Goddess. And with that, that's the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!